Good afternoon and welcome to Rubbin Minds. My name is Isabella Adediji. Now, finally, after what has been like months, the portfolios have been assigned to the ministers. Nigerians have been waiting with bated breath, and the ministers do have their work cut out for them. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, 133 million Nigerians live in multidimensional poverty. There's a lot of work that will be done. And to discuss this ministerial list, to discuss the assignment of portfolios, and just the sheer amount of work that will be required of these ministers and ministries by extension, I have with me Barrister Dotun Ajulo. Welcome to Rubbin Minds.
Very well. Good afternoon, Isabella. Good afternoon, audience.
Good afternoon, and thank you for honoring our invitation. Now, I don't know about you, but there was that sense of urgency by Nigerians that the president needed to hit the ground running. And it did take some time before we finally saw the list, which came in bits. And after we saw the list, finally the portfolio was assigned to the different ministers. What do you make of these, the assignment of these portfolios? Do you see round pegs in round holes? Or do you see a bit of a mismatch now that the list is finally out?
Oh, well, let me start by saying the expectation from Nigerians or by Nigerians in respect to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as far as the ministerial appointment is concerned, is premised on the fact that this is one man who, during the electionary process, what everybody was saying was antecedent. And one of his very score points was that this is a man that ran Lagos, who made Lagos better. One of the things people say about Bola Ahmed Tinubu is that this is a man that used men, that knows who is fit, who is better for whatever assignment. So you will expect less from Nigerians, because that was his score point during the campaign. However, the list took about 2 months before it came out. That was a bit of disappointment. Because
there was the expectation that he will hit
the ground running. Well, the deadline, I think it was just like 2 days to the constitutional deadline that the list was finally out. Now, at the point when the list was out, personally, I must tell you that I felt a bit uncomfortable because we saw a list whereby we have past governors, past ministers. Some of them have been governors before they became a minister. They have been ministers before they became governors.
So you saw some recycled names.
We saw recycled names and all of that, whereby everybody were expecting that we are going to have technocrats and all of that. So, but even at that, there are a lot of very commendable things about the list in itself. For the first time since 1999, this is the first time that you are going to have a list that obviously persons from opposition party came up on that list as minister. You even have an ex-governor from a supposed opposition party coming up as a ministerial nominee. Now, we've moved from that stage. That's a commendable aspect of it. That, okay, when you are talking about government of national unity, so these are some semblance of it.
So do you expect that we'll see more people from opposition parties being invited to work with this government? Does that signal just having that inclusion in the ministerial list?
Very well, very well. Let's even leave those you know on the political terrain. There is a particular, the young man that got Minister of Communication, and Bosun. Bosun is a very bitter critic of talking about Bola Ahmed Tinubu, talking about the government of APC. But I can tell you that one of the very strategic portfolio in any government is communication. So if we are to leave it on that, if we are to base it on that, yes, it is quite commendable.
Speaking about Bosun, he's the Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy. And he has a track record of working in the tech space and building the tech ecosystem.
Very well.
So do you see this as a round peg in a round hole?
Yes.
And do you see this across board, or do you see this as just
it's not across board. is far from being across board. But the only thing we are saying there is we can talk about 1, 2, 3 persons, like Bosun, for whatever it is worth. We've not tried him. This is one man, a young man that I know, he has never held a public office, to the best of my understanding. But when you look at his credentials, what he does, in line with the portfolio, one has some level of hope that maybe in another 3, 4, 5, 6 months, everything will become very apparent and obvious to everybody. If indeed the president has made the right choice or not.
Okay, you know, you're speaking about communication,
yes.
and looking at some of these names, some people would have expected certain names to be in certain, to be assigned to certain portfolios. So, say someone like Mr. Dele Alake, that is very big on communication, is being handed solid minerals, for example. And I can go through the list where one begins to ask questions.
I would disagree that Dele Alake has it when it comes to communication.
Even given his past experience as a journalist and the comms work he did.
Maybe you are looking at, that would mean you are looking at communication from the point whereby...
Information,
you know, information is different from communication. Like that of Dele Alake, for me, is a total mismatch.
And why do you say that?
Yes, a total mismatch in the sense that you are talking about solid minerals. I'm aware that Dele Alake, I think he studied something not even related to journalism. But from day one of his life, he picked up journalism as a career, and he developed himself in that area. He has been given solid mineral. For me, it's a total mismatch. That was why I said it's
not... Which
not...
other names do you see as mismatch, or which other names do you have that are...
Well, in as much as I would not want to just come on here and be bringing out names, it has more to do with... you went and give the former governor of Plateau State, Labour. This is a man who could not, in his 8 years in Plateau State, who could not take care of the affairs of civil servants in the state. That's the man who is coming up as a minister of labor. With what we've passed through in this country, talking about ASU strike, talking about doctors going on strike and the rest of it, it was simply because these things were not properly managed. Now, a government of Renew went and brought Simon along to come and be minister of, and a whole lot of them. But like I've said, in as much as it's falls below expectation, we have certain commendable choice of the president. Like for me, my area of constituency is the Ministry of Justice. And I can tell you that since, let me leave it for 16 years. In the last 16 years, this is the first time any president will get it right in the appointment of Attorney General of the Federation. In the last 16 years, the choice of Lateef Fagbemi is a departure from what we're having. That office has been occupied by core politicians. But this time around, we have a lawyer who has all it takes, a rare breed, that conservative legal core legal practitioner becoming the Attorney General of the Federation. So that was why I said there are a lot of relief about the list, in as much as we felt deeply that it could be better.
And looking at this list, we've seen some new portfolios that have come up. I believe we have the blue economy and marine. We also even have, I believe it's ecological management, state environment and ecological management. And then even tourism has made a comeback, which wasn't there before. It was merged with arts and culture. What do you make of some of these new or returning portfolios?
Well, Isabella, there's one thing I want you to know. You see, ministerial portfolio. I think I mentioned this on one of the TV stations. Ministerial portfolio is secondary when it comes to what has to be delivered. You see, most of these men that are being appointed, most of the offices that you are seeing, the core persons that do the job, they are in the ministry. The core person, that's why the Dele Alake being solid mirror, when I look at it back and
But some
forth.
will argue that having politicians
Yes.
in some of these ministerial
Yes.
roles will help in managing that relationship between minister and civil service.
Very well.
That being able to almost navigate the politics of the civil service is important.
Very well. So that's the same thing I'm saying. Like, basically, these persons manning this portfolio, heading this ministry, most times it's not even all about them. They are the women campuses of the president. They can only carry out the mind of the president. And all they will do with that office is to leverage on the portfolio to work on the mind of the president. There is little or nothing you can do if a president is not buying into an idea of whatever your vision is like.
So the responsibility still stops at the end?
It still stops at the box of Mr. President. Aside from Attorney General of the Federation and the rest, how many of these ministers have constitution? There is nothing in the Constitution stating this is what the ministry has to do and all of that. So
I
now,
also wanted to, what do you make of the list and also its utilization of women and young people?
well, this is one, and I believe that is very apparent to your mind. This is one of the most commendable things about the list in question. Since 1999, I think this will be the first cabinet where you are going to have a lot of women. The interesting thing, again, is that even the women you are talking about, they are young and younger people. Talking about Betty Adu and all of that. Go and even look at the portfolio assigned to them, like the bosom we've mentioned, like the man who is coming to blue economy, the BTO. These are averagely young guys, 40, 42. I think Betty Adu is 36. The list you had in the list of age that you had in the last government, I think was 44 in the government of Buhari. So that is one very impressive thing about the current cabinet. That's a total reflection of young persons and involvement of women. Look at Minister of another very interesting ministry, another very strategic ministry in any government is Ministry of Trade. Go and check the woman and the history of the woman in Ministry of Trade. Doris Onite, a medical doctor who was at some point Commissioner of Finance in Imo State, today coming up as Minister of Trade and whatever in the country. So you cannot, it's a plausible one for the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu when you talk about the young persons, the involvement of women. These are the impressive part of the list that I mentioned earlier on, that we should look and give ourselves some level of hope.
And I believe Nigerians will be looking forward to seeing how well these people perform.
It doesn't take us too long. In another 3, 4, 5 months.
We'll begin to start making judgments. Thank you very much, Barrister Dr. Ajulo, for your contributions on Rubbin Minds.
Thank you.